welcome back to the channel. I'm Lana and today we're talking about newborn sleep. If you're anything like me, you value your sleep and you can take all the help you can get in convincing your newborn to sleep for just a little bit longer. If this is your first time on my channel, welcome. I'm glad that you found me. I make videos simplifying money at home. I make videos twice a week, so please subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my future uploads. First off, I am not a trained baby sleep expert. I am not a doctor. I am just a mom with a baby, and I've had a baby before. My older son is 3.5, so I have had all sorts of exciting experiences with nighttime sleep or not nighttime sleep. And of course, if your doctor is recommending that you wake your baby up every 2 to 3 hours, even in the middle of the night, because they need extra food or they're not getting weight properly or whatever it is, be sure to be listening to that and not to me. So I would only attempt to help a baby sleep longer at night if nothing seemed to be wrong with them and they were gaining enough weight. Okay, so I'm just sharing the things that seem to help my baby sleep for longer. Maybe next week my son will change his mind and decide that everything I've done is for nothing, but this is what seems to help me now, and these are some of the things that I came to more slowly with my first kid, but his sleep was pretty much a disaster and we were getting up in the middle of the night all the time. So these are kind of the things that I've been working on over time and have been more able to implement with my second kid. And quite a few of my insights have come from BabyWise, and I am not following that 100%, and I'll share with you a little bit about that also. But know that a lot of these ideas come from that, so if you want to read something more about that, I would definitely recommend reading BabyWise. So the kind of baby that I'm talking about is one that can't roll over in their swaddle yet, so you can still swaddle them. I will try to make a video about baby sleep after they're out of the swaddle later, but right now I'm talking about a little baby that you can swaddle. So environment, I try to make the sleep environment for my baby as conducive to sleep as possible. So we have blackout curtains, and these are serious blackout curtains that can make it kind of like night during the day, and I think that helps with naps also. We also have the sound machine turned up nice and loud. It's not too hot, it's not too cold in there. With my other kid, I always thought he was cold, so we were always heating his bedroom more than the other rooms in the house. But now we're just keeping the house at a normal temperature, and the baby seems to be fine. My baby is also sleeping in a swaddle so that he can't startle himself or scratch himself. All my babies are scratchers. So he also has mitts or socks on his hands inside his swaddle in case he gets out of the swaddle and scrapes his face. And the baby is sleeping in a crib on a hard mattress. The other thing about his environment that I think is super important is that we have a video camera. If you are a mom like me, you probably check on the baby about every 3 minutes to make sure that they are still breathing. And I thought it was just me, but I think that's totally normal. But if you have a video camera, you can do your checks whenever you want and not disturb the baby or not go into the room. Because with my son, we didn't have any sort of monitor, and so that means I was sneaking into his room every 5 minutes and watching him breathe. So that was probably a little bit disruptive to his sleep. We actually have a Blink system for our house, and we also have a baby monitor through Blink. This is not sponsored. I really like the Blink system because all our cameras are on one app on my phone, so I don't need any extra equipment or extra screens or anything to carry around with me. I just look on my phone and I can check on the baby whenever I want to reassure myself and see if he's wiggling and stuff. So let's talk about feeding. So with my first kid, I thought if I fed him more during the day, he would sleep longer at night because he'd had more food during the day, right? That makes sense. So I fed him, I don't know, every hour or whenever he fussed or whenever he was unhappy. I fed him all the time. And you know, that's fine, and it worked out just fine, and he's just fine. But I kind of realized that that doesn't actually necessarily make the sleep better, and it doesn't actually make the baby happier either. So now I'm trying to stretch my feedings during the day and at least go 2 hours or maybe even 3 hours between feedings, even during the day and during the evening. Because the other thing that I was thinking is that the baby will sleep better if you feed them more times in the evening. But that doesn't seem to be true either. So my theory on this is that if you feed them at 5, 6, 7, and 8 and then put them to bed at 8, their last feeding was actually a very small feeding. You're not helping them have a large tummy so that they can get in a bunch of food all at once. You're encouraging them to have a little tummy, which means if you put them to bed at 8, they're probably going to be awake at 9 or 10, which is not what you want, right? So even in the evenings, I'm trying to have my son's feedings at least 2 hours apart. This makes his last feeding a good, solid meal. He's getting a lot in, which will sustain him for longer during the night. So I want to share a little bit about what our bedtime routine for my newborn looks like. I know there's a lot of different theories about when you should put babies to sleep, but my theory is that you should put them to sleep at the last possible moment so that you can go to bed closest to that time. So for us, that ends up being 8 p.m. If we try to keep him up any later, he is just hysterical and it doesn't work. So we have to put him to bed at 8, but most of the time my husband and I can get ourselves in bed at least at 9 or 9:30 so that we are making the most of his nighttime sleep also. So for us, our baby's bedtime is at the same time every night. So he is learning that routine. He's learning that this is what happens and that his body gets used to having a nice big meal and then sleeping for a long time. So at bedtime, we start to turn down the lights. During the day, we have lots of lights on and we try to expose the baby to daylight so he realizes that it's day, it's time to be awake, or, you know, have more nap sort of things. But at night, we start turning down the lights to tell him that it's time for a longer sleep. And when it's time for his last feeding, we make sure he's calm. Sometimes babies get a little hysterical right before bed. So we have to make sure that he's calm enough to actually eat. Because if he just has a little feeding because he's really tired, then he's not going to sleep very well. So sometimes he needs to be calmed down before he has his final feeding. And at that final feeding, I try to let him nurse for as long as he would like to, and then, you know, maybe burp him some more and then try to get him to feed some more so that he is as full as possible. But if he starts spitting up, to me, that means that he's plenty full and he doesn't need any more, and so that's the end of feeding him. So another big debate is, should you put your baby down awake or asleep? Or are you helping them figure out how to put themselves to sleep? What should you do about that? So in BabyWise, they think that whenever you're putting your baby down, they should be drowsy but awake. But to me, I do not want to wake my baby up after they have had a good feeding and they look very ready to take a nap. I am not going to purposely wake that baby up. So my solution is awake or asleep. If I know that they're tired during the day and they need a nap, I feed them and they look perfectly awake, but it's time for a nap, I still put him down even if his eyes are open and he's looking around. He still gets put down and he has his nap. So he is learning how to put himself to sleep, but I'm not waking him up. If I fed him and he's totally out, I just put him down anyway. I do not wake him up. It just seems wrong to me. So he is learning some skills about how to put himself back to sleep, because sometimes he's awake when he's going to bed, but that's not always the case. And sometimes if he seems super awake or a little squirrely, sometimes I'll give him his pacifier and he will kind of soothe himself to sleep by sucking on the pacifier, and that seems to be really helpful if I'm not sure if the sleeping is really gonna happen. It keeps him from screaming if he's sucking on the pacifier. Okay, this is the hardest part, and this is, I try not to go backwards with his sleep. So say you've been putting your baby to bed at 8 p.m. and sometimes they're waking up at 1 p.m. or 3 p.m. and then one night they wake up at 11:30. And you're like, what do I do? You were like expecting some awesome sleep and then 5 minutes later you're awake. So it's so tempting to just feed the baby right then and put them back to bed. because then hopefully they'll just sleep for longer the next round. But that doesn't seem to be how it works, and then you're training their tummy that they can wake up at 11 too. So my no scream solution to this is that sometimes I can just get the baby up and change his diaper, not turn on very many lights, and then put him back to bed, and he can put himself back to sleep because maybe he was just uncomfortable because his diaper was wet. So I change him and I put him back to bed, and sometimes then he'll sleep for an hour and a half, and then I'll feed him at that point. Or if the diaper trick doesn't work, perhaps you can hold the baby and rock the baby and help them sleep during that time, but don't feed them until their previous 1 a.m. time. And of course, you are the parent and you get to decide all of these things, and you know, if you're just really sensing that what they need is more food, then maybe that's what you're gonna do that night. But if you think, you know, they just woke up, they got startled, they wet their pants, whatever it is, if you can encourage them to still maintain when they ate in the middle of the night, the next night can go a lot better. So this happened to us. We put the baby to bed at 8. I don't think he got the best feeding at 8, so that kind of messed things up. And then he woke up at 11:30, and I was like, oh no. So I ended up sleeping with him in my arms on the couch to extend his tummy. And you know, it was not very much fun for me because that means I was basically awake for hours in the middle of the night. But the next night, he went back to his normal sleep schedule. He did not wake up at 11 again. He went back to waking up at 1 when I was hoping he was going to wake up. And it was all fine. So we got over that little blip, no problem. We didn't go backwards in what time he was waking up. And if your baby wakes up ridiculously more earlier than what you were hoping for, perhaps you can just say, can we hold out for 1 more hour? So if they woke up at 10 p.m. and you really wanted them to wake up at 1, and you're like, I need to sleep at some point, perhaps you can just hold them or convince them to go to sleep for a little bit longer. Maybe you can hold out for 1 more hour. And then, you know, the next night, if they wake up at 11, you can hold out till midnight. And then you can keep marching up their time just a little bit. It doesn't have to be a ton for their stomach to start stretching a little bit. It doesn't have to be this huge thing all at once to help them sleep longer the next night. I hope this video gave you a few ideas to try if you are having trouble getting your baby to sleep at night. I am still learning so much, and each kid is so much different, and each parent is so much different. But let me know down in the comments, what do you do to help your baby sleep? It really helps me and this video out if you hit that thumbs up button and if you subscribe to my channel. When you subscribe to my channel, YouTube will show you my new videos when they come out. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you in the next one. Bye for now.